I'm at Chelsea Market in New York, which is what I would say if I was in New York, which I'm not. I'm at TwitchCon in Las Vegas, baby! Normally, I don't fly out to the middle of the desert, but the past 3.5 years have taught me not to take freedom of movement for granted. You know, for the longest time, I didn't view Twitch as a viable streaming platform. I actually first started live streaming on livestream.com, then I later moved over to Ustream, and then finally I tried out YouTube Live. I always thought Justin TV, and later on Twitch TV, were weird names. Who's Justin? It took until around about 2020, when I heard this music artist called Hikaru Station, that I decided to make an account on Twitch. Sadly, Bao's meet and greet was all booked up by the time I downloaded the TwitchCon app, but perhaps that's for the best. Anyway, Las Vegas certainly wasn't on my bucket list of US cities to visit, but I did want to attend TwitchCon at least once before I grew too old and boring to go anymore. Also, Julie22 was going to be there, and I figured this would likely be the only chance to meet her outside of an IRL JulieCon. TwitchCon is one of those rare events that draws in everyone from all around the world. You'll meet people both familiar and unfamiliar that you'd likely never see otherwise. From what the TwitchCon website said about the requirements for entry, I was honestly preparing to get treated like cattle. You couldn't bring a bag larger than a purse, all bags had to be searched, you had to go through a metal detector, there were scary armed guards with scary drug-sniffing dogs, the whole 100 yards. But the staff made it so quick and easy to get in and out of the convention center that all my worrying was for nothing. I was waved through security, and the whole thing took mere seconds, since I didn't have a bag on me. Your mileage may vary though. I saw some poor sod getting pulled to the side where he got his behind spanked by a security guard with a metal detector. Hey, only high school athletic coaches can do that. Thursday I picked up the badge to avoid the line, but ended up in one anyway. It was actually kind of funny. The earlier you arrive, the longer you have to wait online. On Friday, I got to the convention a little before 8 a.m., but apparently the gates open at 10:30 a.m., something that wasn't particularly well communicated beforehand. But the crew were considerate enough to let us queue up in the shades so that we weren't roasting in the sun for 2 hours. I still needed a bag though, to carry all the obligatory free swag, so once I was inside, I went over to the Genshin area and snagged a Honkai Star bag from the attendant who really wanted me to play on their computers. Sorry, but I'm not into gacha. Props to the artist though. Wait, you look familiar. Yeah, I think I've seen you getting a boba enema on Twitter. If I ever find that cursed image again, I'll post a link in the description. You're welcome. Habit-forming play-to-win games aside, I got a ton of stares while carrying the old Star Festival bag around the Vegas Strip. In hindsight, they were probably all Genshin players. Twitch offered discounted rates for several hotels nearby the convention center. I say nearby, but none of them were what I would consider within walking distance. Especially so, considering the Vegas sun makes touching grass a lethal activity. Not like there's any grass to touch anyway. You can touch rock, I suppose. And I say discounted in air quotes, but it was still really expensive. $200 a night! I thought all these hotels make their money on the poor saps hitting the slots, not the darn rooms! Anyway, as I alluded to earlier, my choice of lodging was the New York Hotel, because I've always wanted to stay at a nice luxury Manhattan hotel, but since the real New York is just a stone throw away, I really can't justify the expense. So, when you're in New York, but not in New York, you gotta do what the New Yorkers do. Which means, whenever someone comes up to you, no matter what they're saying, just say no and walk away. That's how you survive in New York, and that's how we're gonna survive in New York, New York. Was the hotel true to the New York style? Well, it certainly had spunk, and all the New York iconography made it feel closer to home than it actually was. But the real New York doesn't have a roller coaster outside the Chrysler Building. Since it was mostly indoors, the New York Hotel was naturally cleaner than the real deal, but due to the lax indoor smoking laws, the air quality was perhaps worse than the city it's copying. I arrived in Vegas a few days early to get my bearings for the days ahead. Turned out to be a good idea, as it's incredibly easy to get lost inside the labyrinthine hotels. The scale of these places is massive. It feels like you're walking through the Casinopolis zone from Sonic Heroes. Ever heard of 15-minute walkable cities? In Vegas, it's more like a 30-minute city. You'll do plenty of walking, both inside during the day and outside at night when the sun isn't trying to boil you. Just watch out for Mickey and friends. That scam is exactly the same here as it is in New York. TwitchCon itself was everything I imagined it to be. There was so much going on at any given moment that it was really hard to take it all in. Walking around to get a lay of the land is an obvious first step, and boy was there a lot to see. Basically every artist in Artist Alley was at the top of their class. I really wish I could have bought some prints, but I just don't have the wall space. And I'd rather not have physical evidence that I'm a filthy weeb. Then again, I'm sure at least half of my friends already know that I watch VTubers, so perhaps that ship has already sailed. What was I talking about? Artist Alley? I recognized a few artists that I've seen before at other anime cons. There was Fua, Cyrst, and Daydada, to name a few. Outside the alley, there was the Expo Hole, which housed all the sponsors and companies with products aimed towards streamers. Mostly. Some of the software products they featured actually caught my interest, but I just can't see how they can make money. If they have ongoing server costs while offering their products for free, then how does that make sense? I guess venture capital keeps them afloat for now, but I just don't like using cloud products with no revenue model, as they have this funny little routine where in 12 to 16 months, they just up and vanish off the face of the planet once funding dries up. And speaking of drying up, here we have the Navy in what looks like a last resort recruitment scheme. Hey, guys, you really want people who spend hours on end in front of a computer screen to join your squad? No, I talked to one of the reps and she said they're here to spread awareness. About the esports team branch of the Navy? Yeah, in the future, all wars will be won and lost by a game of Mario Kart 8. I mean, that's how kids settle arguments, right? If it works for them, it'll work for the adults. And besides, 5th generational warfare is all about mind control anyway. There were other more sensible exhibitors like Alienware, the company famous for selling grossly overpriced computers, and Elgato, the company who can't make a functional piece of hardware to save their life. Oh, there was also Shure, manufacturers of the famous mic that makes your voice sound like mud. Apparently V-Stream was here too, but I didn't see any hint of them on the expo hall, and I walked through there quite a few times. Wandering around a bit more, we see the artist formerly known as Facebook, now known as the company trying to get everyone to live in the pod and eat the holographic meatloaf. And then there's Honda, who made an electric car so terrible that not even their own representatives could say nice things about it. It's hard not to make this into one massive Times Square-esque advertisement, as everywhere you looked, you'd see company logos plastered in your face. At times, it felt like I paid $230 just to be marketed to for an entire weekend. But conventions need money in order to run, and indeed, TwitchCon would not be able to happen without Big Oil laying down the big Benjamins. And speaking of, they're not here to try and sell us more gas. No, I think there's a concerted effort at all levels of government to create a future free from combustion engines. The Chevron representative said the company's here to have a presence at a large event, which is another unsustainable concept. It's like those global brands that have hoity-toity stores in Manhattan which can never turn a profit because the rent is too damn high. They can only exist because stores in other parts of the country make enough extra profit to subsidize the Manhattan location's existence. Anyway, the TwitchCon space itself was actually quite small compared to how massive the Las Vegas Convention Center is. That's not a bad thing. Actually, it was perfectly sized. Nothing felt too crowded or too spread out. The bathrooms were clean, and more importantly, stayed clean, which gives them bonus points in my book. Though, I do have one complaint. Every single stall was occupied throughout the entirety of the con. I found a grand total of 1 open stall over the course of 3 days. It was so consistent that for the first 2 days, I thought there was no way to tell what stall was occupied and what stall was free. Turns out, they were all occupied. And there were no lines for the stalls. But perhaps everyone else did the same thing I did and just gave up and pissed instead. Is every guy here suffering from chronic constipation or something? I found everyone to be pretty darn friendly, from the community members to the exhibitors to the general staff. As someone entering a sea of strangers, I was pleasantly surprised. You could definitely feel the warmth from those around you. And speaking of warmth, my god was it hot out. Unlike some other venues I've been to in the past, the food offerings in the outdoor Kappa cabana were actually pretty good, and the music acts from the various artists were a lovely accompaniment. If you got too hot from being in the Vegas sun, there was a little overhang with misters that you could rest under. After waiting online at the food trucks, that extra comfort was a godsend. Friday was possibly the hottest day, and Sunday was relatively moderate, though that could have just been me getting used to the heat. Had it been a bit more temperate, I would have stuck around outside more to hear some of the other performances. If TwitchCon is ever held during a cooler part of the year, Kappa will be a huge hit. Julie, not 22, was talking about having a festival set up next year, but I personally enjoy hearing one act at a time. Back inside, where there was plenty of AC, I got to attend 2 panels. One was the story of Justin TV, where I learned why it was called Justin TV. I mean, besides the founder's name being Justin, apparently it was supposed to be a reality TV show on the internet. Huh, I'm glad that they expanded that concept so that now everyone can have their own reality TV show on the internet. No Kappa. The second panel I went to was Paint Good with I Can Be Danny. Having lost my chance to learn how to paint with the Bob Ross crew, I was more than excited to join the live session of Paint Good with my favorite mustachioed artist. Danny is really entertaining both on stream and in person, so 2 hours went by in a flash. Too bad my painting was less bold and brash and more belongs in the trash. I didn't take it back to the hotel with me. Sorry, Danny. Oh, did I mention I went to Omega Mart? Honestly, I was expecting more render error and less sci-fi. But I'm glad I at least got to see Area 15 before coming back home. Boy, it was super crowded, almost unenjoyable with all the people there. It really felt like one of those attractions that reaches critical mass because it's Instagrammable and pulls in all the normies. Overall, Vegas did not disappoint. The food here is quite expensive, and the indoor smoking is a pretty big downer, but there's so much to do and see that you'll never find yourself bored and depressed. Sure, I wish the slow guy in front of me wasn't always a smoker, but I suppose that's just the clientele here. The hotels are massive and let you escape the heat for long enough to get you to where you're going. Thank God for AC, as nearly every day reached into the mid-90s. The LV monorail holds up reasonably well when compared to the New York-New Jersey PATH train, and aside from half the ticket gates not working at all, it was smooth sailing to and from the convention center. A word of advice when taking the monorail: you'll likely save some money if you buy a multi-day pass, especially if you buy it online, and consider staying at a hotel near the MGM Grand Station. During peak times, like when TwitchCon is in town, the monorail is horrifyingly packed. If you get on at the southmost station, you should have an easier time fighting for a spot on the train. Although I was spoiled for choice with the numerous restaurants and food establishments in the area, I'd always default to True Food Kitchen, as it was a known variable. The food tastes good, is good for you, and comes at a decent price, around $22 per meal. That may sound steep, but given how most hotel restaurants charge $35 at the low end, True Food Kitchen is actually a decent price. It's also located in this fancy pants mall that looks like if BlackRock colonized Greece. What? No, I didn't say anything. Oh hey, is that Kisaka? Kisaka Toriyama?
I don't think that's how the song goes.
Also, Insane in the Rain VTuber fan confirmed, not clickbait, crazy coincidence? He was in line to meet Kisaka, or rather, his partner was, so I got to snag a photo with him too. It was really fun meeting all the online personalities that I follow. 4 years ago, I would have never thought that I'd get to meet any of them outside Anime Expo or VidCon. I was always so hyper-focused with staying inside the little bubble that I created for myself that the prospect of traveling out of state to attend a convention was foreign to me. Going to TwitchCon really gave me a chance to finally get outside my head and experience the world that I had been holding myself back from. Expect me to cover more out-of-state conventions in the future. Anyway, thank you for 500 subscribers. That's a huge milestone, and we've almost reached the requirements for partner. This channel is self-funded, and even though YouTube runs ads on my videos, I don't actually see any of that revenue. Leave a comment if you enjoyed TwitchCon, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Oh hey! Welcome to the end card! Shout out to Shyhoof, Pupsir, and Dragon Lancer. You guys are awesome, and it was great meeting you in person. I'll catch you around Doodletown.